Question over the homework assignment before we get started.
I'll do today, Steve. Probably because I grabbed an extra one. No. You need this?
So, what we're doing today is more factoring. We're going over factoring still. 8x squared minus 56x plus 48. We want to factor this quadratic.
Yep.
First step, we need to see if there's a greatest common factor. If there is, we need to factor it out. If the first term is negative, we need to factor it out too. First term here is not negative. Our x squared is not a negative number in front of it, so we don't worry about it. But we do need to see if there's a number that goes into 8x squared or 56x and 48. Is there a number that will go into all three terms? 4 will go into it. Because 4 or 8, we can try 8, because we have to make sure 56 is divisible by 8. 7. 48 is also divisible by 8. It is 6. So 8 does divide into all three. So if we divide 8 out of 8x squared, we factor 8 out of 8x squared, we're left with x squared. If we factor the 8 out of 56x, we get 7x. And when we factor the 8 out of 48, we get 6. So once we factor the 8 out of all three terms, we're left with x squared minus 7x plus 6. We do still have the 8 out front. Questions on this so far? Step 2 is going to be 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. So we use this here just to get it set up in the correct form, and we use the spaces to make sure we have enough space. Step number 3 is to find the sign. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign in the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. So here the third term sign is plus. So the signs are going to be the same, and they're going to match the sign of the middle term, which is negative. So we're saying that our two signs are going to be negative and negative. Questions on this so far? Step number 4 is to find the factors of the first and third term. And our last step is to plug in and check. So our factors for our first term are going to be the factors of x squared. Well, the only factors for x squared are x and x. So there's only one set of factors. We're going to just go on and plug it in. Now the factors of the third term, we're looking at the factors of 6, which would be 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Now at this point here, we just need to pick one of them. Do we want to try 1 and 6 first or 2 and 3 first? 2 and 3. Now the last thing we need to do is to check and make sure we have this in correct form. And to do that, we're going to multiply back out. Now, we do not do our full multiplication of these two expressions. And partially because we're not going to do our x times x, because x times x is x squared. Well, and the main place we got x and x is because they are the factors of x squared. So by definition of them being factors, they're going to multiply back together to give us x squared. That's just what factors do. The first one we're really looking at is x times negative 3, which would be negative 3x. We move on to the next one. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And lastly, negative 2 times negative 3, the negative and negative make a positive. 2 times 3 is 6. Now we simplify the middle term. Negative 2 3x minus 2x is negative 5x plus 6. Is that the middle term we wanted? No, we wanted it to be what? Negative 7x, yes? Even though this isn't the correct setup, our first and third terms are still the same. We still got x squared, we still got positive 6. So, first thing we could do is we could actually switch the 2 and 3, which would give us x times negative 2, which would be negative 2x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x, telling us that we have negative 5x, which is the exact same thing. So since 2 and 3 didn't work in either form, we can switch to 1 and 6 and try again. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And negative 6x minus x is negative 7x. And since that is the middle term we wanted, 8 times x minus 1 times x minus 6 is the correct factored form of this here. Questions on this here? Questions on anything we've done so far? We ready for the next one? (14x squared plus 31x plus 15). So again, we need to look for greatest common factor. First term's not negative, so that doesn't matter. But we need to see if there's a number or variable or number and variable that go into all three. But if there's not a number, that will go into 14, 31, and 15. If there is no greatest common factor, we just move on to step number 2. Our 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Here, the third term is positive. So the signs in both of those sets of parentheses are going to be the same, and they're going to match the sign of the middle term. And our middle term here is positive. So our signs for this here are going to be plus and plus. Questions so far on steps 1 through 3? Step number 4 is define the factors of the first and third term. So our first term is 14x squared. Well, the x squared we know has to be what? X and x. That's the only thing that's going to multiply together to give us x squared for this here. Because x times x would give us x squared. Now 14. So that's going to be 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. Which one do we want to try first? Yeah. Because at this point, it really doesn't matter. We need to plug it in and then check from there. Factors of the third term. We're looking at the factors of 15. We have 1 and 15, or 3 and 5. And we could try 3 and 5 first. And again, we just stick them in because at this point here, we can check. If we get the correct middle term, we have it factored correctly. If we don't, we can switch the 3 and 5, try again. Two x times 5, 2 times 5 would be 10. We still have our x. 3 times 7x, positive 3 times positive 7x would be positive 21x. 10x plus 21x, 10 plus 21 is 31x. Is that the middle term we wanted? Yes. And that's it. Questions on this here? Question on anything so far? Get ready for the next one. Two x squared minus 7x plus 5. Is there a greatest common factor between these three terms? No, there's not a number that will go into 2, 7, and 5. Our x squared term, our a is not negative, so we don't have to worry about it. So we'll have two sets of parentheses with three spaces. Find the sign. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Here, the third term is positive. So the signs are the same, and they're going to match the sign of the middle term, which is negative. So they're both negative. So that takes care of steps 1 through 3. Step number 4, find the factors of the first and third terms. So first term is 2x squared. Well, the only factors of x squared are x and x. Now we could write it out as x for 2x squared as x times 2x, but there's only one set. Why write it out when we can just plug in the fact that the only factors of x squared are x and x, only factors of 2 are 2 and 1. Might as well just plug it in. Factors of 5 are 1 and 5. Do we have any other factors? No. Do we want to put the 5 in the first spot or second spot? Doesn't matter. Which one do you want to pick? Second. Because it doesn't matter in the fact that we just need to get a place to start. There is a correct spot for them. We just need to find it. Now we check this here to make sure this is the correct setup. 2x times negative 5. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10x. Negative 1 times x would be negative x, giving us negative 11x. Is that the middle term we wanted? No. So what we can do is switch the 1 and 5. And we can check again. 2x times negative 1 is negative 2x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 2x minus 5x is negative 7x. Is that the middle term we wanted? That's it. Questions on this so far? Because a lot of this, as I think you're starting to notice, is a lot of guess and check. We plug it in, check, see if it works. If it's not, we fix it, we try again. And the more of these that you do, the more that you'll be able to start seeing what is a more likely, or what is going to be probably the better setup to get to that middle term, to get what we want. (3x squared minus 14x plus 8). Is there a greatest common factor? No. Is a, our term in front of the x squared, positive? No. So on two sets of parentheses with three spaces. Third term, if the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Here, the third term is positive. So the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. So we have negative and negative. Factors of our first term. We're looking at the factors of 3x squared. So the factors of x squared would be x and x. Now, if they put the x squared in the third spot, they put it with the 8 instead of the 3, we would still have x and x. It wouldn't go in the first blank in either set of parentheses. It would go in the third, because it's corresponding to the third term. Factors of 3. 3 and 1, yeah? All right. I'm just going to plug it in one of the two spots. Factors of 8 is 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. Which one do we want to try first, 1 and 8 or 2 and 4? 1 and 8. And then we can Check. 3x times negative 8. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 24x minus x. Negative 24 minus 1 is negative 25x. Yeah. Now we can switch the 1 and 8. And try again. 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x, which gives us negative 11x. Is that the middle term we wanted? No. So we tried every option between 3x and x, 1 and 8. So we've got to switch the 1 and 8 to 2 and 4. Where do we want to put the 4 for our first try? With the 3x or with the x? And we'll put the 2 with the 3x. And we can check this here. 3x times negative 4 would be negative 12x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 12 minus 2 is indeed negative 14, which is the middle term we wanted. So we have this here. Questions on this here? Questions on anything we've done so far? Let's look at the next one. 4x squared minus 19x minus 5. There is no greatest common factor, and our number in front of x squared, is positive. So we have our two sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Find the sign. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, our signs are opposite. So here the third term is what? Negative, yes? So the signs are opposite. Am I looking at the middle term sign for this here? Well, no, we're just looking at the third term. Since the third term was negative, our signs are opposite. The only time we really look at the middle term is if the third term is positive.
May I have your attention, please? It's now time to release the cross-country students. It's time to release the cross-country students. Thank you.
It's missing one thing. Missing one thing. You put them on my desk. So does that make sense when the third term is negative? Because again, we have a tendency to want to, especially with this step, to look at the middle term when the third term is negative. No, third term is negative, signs are opposite. Doesn't matter which one we put as plus, which one is minus. We just need to put one of them as plus, one of them is minus. Now 4x squared, because now we're finding factors of the first and third term. Well, factors of x squared are x and x. Factors of 4 are 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. Which one do we want to try first? 2 and 2. Now we're going to find the factors of 5. The factors of 5 are just 1 and 5. So we can just plug those in, 1 and 5. Doesn't really matter where. And then we can check to make sure we have the correct middle term. 2x times negative 5 would be negative 10x. 1 times 2x is going to be plus 2x. And this gives us negative 8x. Is that the middle term we wanted? No. So that's not it. Now we can switch the 1 and 5. And that's going to give us negative 2x plus 10x equals 8x. Really, all we did was flip the signs. So it took it from negative to positive. Now, since there are no other factors of 5 that we could do with 2 and 2, we're going to have to change 2 and 2 to 1 and 4. Where do you want to put the 4? Over here. All right, let's check it again. X times negative 1 is negative x. 5 times 4x is going to be plus 20x. That's going to equal positive 19x, yes? Is that the correct middle term? Is that the middle term we wanted? I would say yes and no. Yes, because we did want 19, but no, because we did not want positive 19, we wanted negative 19. Now, it might be tempting because we can switch the terms. Because I could switch the 1 and 5, but I would also have to switch the 4x and x. We'd have to switch almost everything. The only thing we wouldn't be switching is the signs, the plus and minus, yes? Or we can leave everything the same and make the negative positive and the positive negative. I think that's an easier change because to make the negative positive, we just add a line. And for the plus, we can either just erase part of that one line or just turn it into a minus. X times 1 is positive 1x. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20x, which will give us the negative 19x that we want. Now, if the numbers in front of x had been 2x and 2x had been the same, switching the 1 and 5 would have worked. Because we do switch the others, we replace the 2x with 2x and 2x with 2x. It really didn't change it. Questions on this here? Ready for the next one? Six x squared plus x minus 12. Is there a greatest common factor between these three terms? There is one. But unfortunately, factoring one out doesn't change anything. So we can move on to step 2, our 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. So here, since we have minus 12, negative 12, the signs would be opposite. One's going to be positive, one is going to be negative. Six x squared. Well, the factors of x squared are x and x. Now, the factors of 6, 1 and 6, or 2 and 3. We'll hold off on putting those in a minute. Factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Okay. Now, I pointed this out yesterday. I know a few of you weren't here or weren't able to pay attention for obvious reasons. But there's a few things that, or there's one big thing that I did point out, and especially with a problem like this here. We said at the start there is no greatest common factor. So I'm going to just pick, say, 2 and 3, and 6 and 2. I'm just picking these. You don't have to write this down. Because if we look at the first set, the parentheses here, we have 2x plus 6. Is there a greatest common factor between 2x and 6? 2 goes into both of them, yes? And if there's a greatest common factor in that parentheses, it means we can factor it out. We can pull it out of those parentheses, which means this here I would factor out a 2, leaving us with x plus 3. No set factor there, so we'd have 3x minus 2. But wait, we said there was no greatest common factor we could pull out. So there should not be one in either set of parentheses. Now, if we didn't notice that the 2x plus 6 had a greatest common factor and we went on and checked it, 2x times negative 2 is negative 4x. 6 times positive 3x is 18x, giving us 14x. It still doesn't work. But if there's not a greatest common factor to begin with, we can't have one in either set of parentheses. So that's kind of nice for this here, because it's saying that one of the combinations with 2x and 3x and 6 and 2 doesn't work, yes? Well, if I switch the 2 and 6 and make it 6 and, or if we had that, 2 and 6, yeah? So I flip it, excuse me. Well, 2x and 2 has the greatest common factor of 2. 3x and 6 has the greatest common factor of 3. So no matter how I set up my 2 and 3, 2 and 6, that will never work. I would always have a greatest common factor, so that's out. Let's say 1 and 12. 2x and 1, we're good. 3x and 12 has a common factor of 3, yes? I switched the 12 and 1. 2x and 12 now has the greatest common factor of 2, giving us a 6x plus 6. Well, that's another greatest common factor. So I know that 2x, 3x, 1 and 12, no matter how we set that up, that's not going to work. If I tried, say 4 and 3, 2x and 4 has the greatest common factor of 2, it's automatically out. I don't even have to check it. I know that's out because 2x and 4 has the greatest common factor of 2, yes? Well, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've just eliminated 5 arrangements that I didn't even have to check. I didn't have to do anything with. They're automatically gone because the starting one did not have a greatest common factor. And if it did, we would factor it out, which means the result, what we would have inside the parentheses, should still not have a greatest common factor. So it would help us get rid of options. Here, 2x and 3, do they have a greatest common factor? No. How about 3x and 4? No. So this could work. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. 3 times 3x is positive 9x. And negative 8x plus 9x is positive 1x. Is that the middle term we wanted? I wrote 6 different arrangements of the factors for this here. But out of those 6, I only really had to check 1. That's why that's nice, because it gives us ways to check them without having to check them. And we could have done a similar thing with 1 and 6, because 1 and 6, 2 and 6, that wouldn't work. There's only one arrangement for the other 2. Questions on any of this here? And the more of these that we do, the better you'll get at them. It'll make things nicer. Let's look at this one here. Negative 4x squared minus 8x plus 5. Is there a greatest common factor between these 3 terms? No. Is the first term negative? So since the first term is negative, we need to factor out the negative. If there was a number also, or there was a number that goes in all 3, we'd factor the negative and that number out. Now, factoring a negative out is kind of nice, because all it's saying is that we're going to take whatever the sign is and flip it. Since I took the negative out of negative 4x, it's going to go from negative to positive. Since I took the negative out of negative 8x, it's going to become positive 8x. And then I took a negative out of positive 5, which is going to take it from positive 5 to negative 5. All we did was just take the signs and flip them. Questions on this here? Now we treat it the exact same way we've been treating all of these. We look at this here and see if the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Third term's positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. Well, I got ahead of myself, and that's fine. Since that third term is negative, one of the signs is going to be plus, one of the signs is going to be minus. I don't even look at the middle term. Because the third term is negative, signs are automatically opposite. Now we're going to look at the factors of the first and third term. Now 4x squared, we're going to have x and x. Factors of 4. We'd have 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. Now I will point this out because there is always the question, why did we factor the negative out? Why are we factoring the negative out? It is because at this point here, we wouldn't be looking at the factors of 4. We'd have to look at the factors of negative 4. So it'd be negative 1 and 4, 1 and negative 4, 2 and negative 2, negative 2 and 2. We have to take those negatives into effect. Which also leads to the question, why aren't we worried about the negative with the 5, yes? That's step 3. Step 3 takes care of this. These whole steps are pretty much built around getting the correct signs with our third term and our middle term, and it's assuming the first term's positive. And it works with the first term being positive. If the first term isn't positive, we make it positive, then follow the steps. These steps still work fine if we don't make that first term positive, but at this point, we have to look at negative 4, not positive 4. I am all for with not working with a negative, especially looking at factors, if the only thing we have to do is factor it out. You all kind of see how that works. I'd rather just move it out, pull it out at the beginning, and treat it the same way any of the others are. Now we need to see, do we want to look at or use 1 and 4 or 2 and 2 first? What do you say, 1 and 4 or 2 and 2? 2 and 2. Factors of 5. Well, 1 and 5, yes? Because it's still going to give us negative 5, because negative 1 times negative 5 is still negative 5. We took care of that sign. 2 times negative 5, 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. 1 times 2x is plus 2x. And negative 10x plus 2x is negative 8x. Is that the middle term we wanted? Yes and no. Yes, it is the right number, but no, that's not the right sign. Yeah. Here, I did not flip the signs. I just rewrote them. We can flip the signs. Here we could have switched the 1 and 5. That would have worked too, but I'd rather just switch the signs. Because now 2x times 5 is positive 5 is going to be positive 10x. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x, giving us positive 8x. We'd still need the negative included in our answer. So we'd have our negative times 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 5. Does the first term being negative really change anything? No. We just had to factor it out and then treat it the same way we did. Questions on any of this here? Questions on anything we've done so far? We'll look at one more. There are 3 left. I'll let y'all pick which one we look at. The last one? Negative 2y squared minus 5y minus 3. So when we look at this here, we want to see if there's a greatest common factor across these 3 terms. There's not a number, but there is a negative in front of that first term, so we're going to get rid of it. We're going to factor it out. And when we factor that negative out of negative 2y squared, we get 2y squared. positive 2y squared. When we factor the negative out of negative 5y, we get positive 5y. And when we factor the negative out of negative 3, we get positive 3. So we get this here. Now we can move on to our two sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Since the third term is positive, our signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term, which is also positive. So we get plus and plus. Now we need to find the factors of the first and third terms. So 2y squared, well, the factors of y squared would be y and y, because that's the only factors for y squared. Our factors of 2 are just 2 and 1. The factors of 3, we only have one set, that would be 1 and 3. So where would we put the 1? Where would we put the 3? 1 and 3. Then we can check 2y times 3 is 6y. 1 times y is plus y. And 6y plus y is 7y. Is that the middle term we wanted? No. So we can switch the 1 and 3 and try again. 2y times 1 is positive 2y. 3 times y is positive 3y. And 2y plus 3y, 2 plus 3 is 5y. So that is the middle term that we wanted. Any questions on this here? Question on anything we've done so far?